My name is Jutta Friedrichs. My project is called The Inconspicuous Life of Walls. I've been looking at urban surfaces in Berlin that are punctured by bullet holes. At the core is very much the distancing of history, of World War II history, with all the survivors now dying. Initially, I thought about making the perpetrators somewhat visible, because I feel like Germany never really went through a proper denazification process, despite several trials, but the numbers of people that were put on trials were very, very low. And then sort of it just got brushed under the carpet within the society and very much handled by the institution, by the government. And to get some of this tactability and this closeness of this history out was important for me to do in this project. So I finally looked at the surfaces of the facades in Berlin that are still punctured by bullet holes and wanted to spatially flesh these out and make these tell a story. So I worked with forensic scientists and got a ballistic reading of a particular wall to map some of the trajectories of the bullet holes, of the bullets that caused these holes on the wall, to somewhat spatialize the surface and have it tell a narrative story in a way that people could engage with. And I thought in this way it was nice that it is partially abstract, but also very concrete with some information that I'm providing, for example, what weapons I used, where the shooter's position, etc. I was taught about the Nazi area before, during, and after, over and over again, and that was a major part of my history education in school. But the way it was told was very strange, because it was pretty much like the Romans, the Greeks, the Nazis, sort of in that trajectory. And in that way, I think as children we put it into the same rubric of a very distant, very ancient past, not quite understanding how that our grandparents were part of that history. And I remember I asked my grandma several times about it, but she wouldn't really talk about it, and that's really at the core of the society. The perpetrators talked very little about it. I've been trying to think several times what that would look like in Berlin. And I think the spatial aspect, the mapping of the trajectory in public space, where people would sort of walk on a sidewalk and just like run into these huge metal rods, and then look at the surface and all of a sudden connect the dots, because most people I know don't see these surfaces anymore and they don't read them, certainly. I think just sort of the ordinary person walking in Berlin to be aware of it. But I think that project there would be slightly different. Here, it was very important to communicate some of the living, how this history is somewhat still alive, how it's influencing German identity today, because I was in several conversations. I conducted various interviews in Berlin around the subject, and here I was always asked by my teachers, like, what new information are you giving us about this subject? It has been talked about it so much. And the idea that it is sort of over dealt with, and couldn't possibly be further explored. So for me it was very important to bring some of the life that it still renders to an audience here, and hence using the vibration and a very all-encompassing bodily experience away from the distancing image.